welcome to Cannon Fodder.
Come on.
We got to work on your booms.
Yeah, well, I think it's, I don't know. I think if they are on a good streak, I'll do a more hyper boom.
Okay.
And then if they're on a bad streak, I'll just say boom. Okay, boom.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
In fairness, I spent at least, good 5 or 6 years, 6 years with Mike working on my booms. Like it was like a variation of boom.
Should it be like an onomatopoeia, like, or like
I had one that was like, it went on, but what was funny, it went on for at least 10 seconds or so. Like I just kept doing multiple booms over and over again. And I never listened to that episode, and I should have. I think Patrick actually, the Podfather, I just popped a P there. I apologize. That's 3 P's. He I think he cut it out, and then because I don't think he even realized what was going on, and then eventually he started being like, oh, let's, and so then it became a conversation of because there's always the manufactured boom that we have on there, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But I think it kind of sounds better. You have the manufactured one that comes in. Welcome to Cannon Fodder. They have the thing, and then you come in with the boom. Perfect.
Okay. You know what? Yeah. I like that. And
we'll just vary it up.
I'm gonna be with the mood of the team on these booms. I think that would be an appropriate way to go about this. I would say right now, I'd be in a more positive boom. I would express a more positive boom. Blue Jackets are 4-1 in the Rick Bowness era, coming off a win last night, which you were in attendance for, and it was boring, I guess you could say, or low scoring. It was interesting. It was one of the more interesting games of this stretch.
Rick Bowness is more of a defensive-minded coach, so he thought it was great. At one point in his post-game comments, he even said, "What a game! The fans sure got a great game." And I know for a fact that at least 2 or 3 fans who were there were like, "I kind of want to leave. It's just really boring." And then he also said that they want to play like that more often. And it's like, oh no, please don't. I wouldn't mind if they played like that defensively more often. They played very well, a really strong, solid defensive game. This team has to figure out the offensive zone a little bit more. They're winning games. That's a good thing. But you can't just keep depending on Zach Werenski and, Kirill Marchenko, and that's it. Score goals. It's so radically different than last year. So last season, they led the NHL in the number of games in which they scored 6 or more goals. So they did that 14 times last year. That's a lot, right?
Yeah.
And so you had to figure, okay, they'll probably take a step back from that a little bit, but this is like a drastic step back.
Yeah.
They're just not converting enough scoring chances. And last night, it was even worse last night. Last night was more about they kind of got dominated by the Dallas Stars, which isn't surprising because Dallas is a legitimate Stanley Cup contender. Jet Greaves was fantastic in net. He made 28 saves, got his first shutout of the season, 3rd of his career. He was fantastic in the defense around him. Like when there was loose pucks in the crease and stuff, there was a couple times they cleared those out of danger. Those could have easily been goals. So they played well in the defensive zone. They just did not establish enough zone time. And if you look at the stats from Natural Stat Trick last night, even strength.
I'm pulling them up.
Here it is right here. Look at the heat. Just look at the heat map. Usually I am not a big heat map guy because a lot of times you'll look at this thing and be like, what am I even looking at here? Like both of them will have if you look right there, the dark blue, that's the Stars. That's where the majority of their shots, like from their high danger shots, came from, right around the net. That area right there between the 2 circles in front of the net, that's called home plate. If you were to draw a line between the 2 dots and then like a triangle type shape toward the net, that's like home plate. That's where you want most of your shots come from. Look at where the Dallas Stars, most of their shots come from there. Look at over on the other side with the Blue Jackets.
Yeah.
They literally have in the right circle, they literally have like this giant zone of no shots at all. Like it's just like,
I mean, look, I think something that caught my eye is to do what they did defensively against the team like the Stars. That is impressive, and I think that's the one takeaway. It's okay if Bowness likes that, then stick with it. But the other side of this heat map is the Jackson Pollock painting, and it's all over the place, and it just it feels a little all over the place on offense. It's not just getting into the zone. It's like, what are we doing once we get into the zone? And they've shown a little bit better shot selection than pre-Bonus, and we'll get into stats that reflect that. But I think for the most part, it's pretty clear that they need to get into the offensive zone. And then the other thing too is so many of those Stars attempts last night were right around the crease, and that was a huge pitfall in the third periods of they're losing, but it doesn't feel like they're giving up like huge wide open chances. They're giving up like these nasty goals around the net, and they're doing less of that as last game showed.
Well, and that's the kind of stuff that leads to the third period meltdowns, and when you have leads and they go away and everyone's like, what's happening? Well, if you're going to give up scoring opportunities from those prime scoring areas, even when you have, every once in a while, you're going to have a goalie play like Jet Greaves played last night, and you're going to win some games. Like, that's great, but you cannot make that your your MO. Like, that can't be your every game thing. You can't just lean on your goalie. Like,
it's not sustainable, especially with the goalies that the Blue Jackets are rocking with. It's not sustainable.
Right. Well, and go back, like, you don't have to put the heat map back up because we all saw it. Yep. But just referencing that, ultimately what you want if you're the Blue Jackets, you want your heat map to look like the one that the Stars had.
Yes.
And you want the other team to have the one that you had that was assigned to the Blue Jackets last night, the Jackson Pollock painting, that you want that one to be the other team. You're going to win a lot of games if it's reversed like that. And you're not going to win a lot of games if it's like it is, but they did end up figuring out a way to win. And listen, they were inspired to keep the puck out of the net last night. It was Charlie Coyle's. That's another thing. It was Charlie Coyle's 1,000th game. Huge milestone. Yes, absolutely. Huge milestone in a player's career. Says a lot about longevity, says a lot about just productivity, and it's just being a valuable key player. And they always say what's the old cliche that the best ability is availability. And in this league, this league maybe more than any other I know, maybe the NFL with all the physicality, that's right at the top of your abilities. Is if you can just stay healthy and stay productive, and he is both of those things. And on top of that, he's a fantastic teammate. They absolutely love Charlie Coyle, and he's only been here. This is his first season in Columbus. This guy is like universally loved on every single team he's ever played on.
100%.
He's just a good guy. He's a great guy to have in the room. And if we're looking forward real quick, he's a pending free agent, and it would be a real shame if they're going to get offers for Charlie Coyle, and they're going to be tempted to take those offers because like there's no guarantee that he's going to resign here, either.
No.
But if I were Don Waddell in the front office of the Blue Jackets right now, I would be seriously thinking about trying to get a deal done to keep Charlie Coyle in Columbus beyond this season. I'll just put it that way because I think that he is an integral part of what you're trying to build here. So anyway, he got his 1,000th win. They wanted to get it for him. It was a special night, all that stuff. I think that all contributed. But looking forward, you can't have too many more games like that one.
No, and just to touch on Charlie Coyle, in this stretch of bonus games, he has been fantastic. I think he had 5 straight games without a point leading up to the Utah game. And then he had 3 points in the, he had 3 points in the game against Calgary. And he had that ridiculous goal right around the crease, kind of played the stick a little bit and tipped it in right corner. That was a beautiful goal. And it's just guys like that, like real skilled players that are so valuable. And, he's obviously a veteran but I completely agree. They're going to get good offers for Charlie Coyle. And I guess we'll see if they value his fit on the roster because he's just so damn reliable.
Oh yeah, he's never missed the playoffs ever.
Insane.
That's crazy.
Well, buckle up. No, I'm kidding.
Well, he's played for some teams that almost always make the playoffs. That helps. But he was also traded, last year from Boston to Colorado to be in the playoffs, and that means Colorado wanted him,
right?
Because they knew what he could bring.
Yeah, it's and real, for the first and second lines that have been pretty unstable with the injuries, and Marchman gets in the game last night and is playing again, which is, I think it can't be understated how huge his presence in the roster is as well.
That's going to help.
Yeah. And just figure out, we've had conversations, you and I, about the line stability in the first and second lines and what's the best combinations, but just having someone anchored and production from that third line, he's been killing it. Did want to touch on a piece you did with Dean post firing. He obviously spoke a lot. Spoke a lot more than I thought he would after what he calls a surprise. And I just want to talk through what you wrote and kind of what you got from him, because it was pretty big.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting because I think he first talked to Mike Arace, former Dispatch columnist and host of this podcast. And if you read Mike's piece about it, he mentioned real high. He spent like 25 minutes talking with him, which is quite a long time for an interview. Yeah. I don't know how long he spent talking to Aaron Portzline of The Athletic, but he had quite a few details in there as well. And then he called me back, and we talked for 25 minutes. So, it wasn't just like cursory stuff. Like, he really wanted to kind of work through some of the stuff that happened. He's not very happy, clearly. He feels like I think he felt like he would at least get this second season, at least get a full second season to try and turn this thing around. And, one thing I thought was interesting, he did look at it and say, look, we won the game in Utah right before it happened. If you look at the schedule, it lined up for them because they're going to be at home. They're going to be at home 5 of the next 7 or something like that. Yeah. Or 6. And so they play well at home. First 2 games were against Calgary and Vancouver, who had been really struggling. So the odds are, that the team's going to try maybe get some ground and start going the other direction. If you win those 2 games, then you got a 3-game winning streak, which is exactly what happened. Yeah. And then they beat Pittsburgh to make it a 4-game streak. And the last 3 games of that 4-game streak were with Rick Bowness. So Evanson's looking at it going, well, I'm watching the games and nothing has changed, is what he told me. Nothing has changed. All the lines are pretty much the same. The structure's the same because Rick Bowness comes in and this has got to be hard, like mid-season switch, right? So you didn't fire. The only assistant that went with Everson was McCarthy, which we'll get to in a second.
Yeah.
So all the other ones are still there. And if you don't know much about this team, if you're Rick Bowness, you're not going to come in and be like, okay, we're completely changing all the structure. We're changing everything. And you guys just have to figure it out right away. Like, no, you're going to keep doing what they've been doing and just get them to do it better. That's essentially what has been happening.
Yeah. To interrupt, the one thing I liked that stood out to me in your piece was the quotes about McCarthy.
Yes.
Dean had, and rightfully so, had glowing comments to say about McCarthy. And this is kind of synonymous with what we said, I think last week when we did the breaking news, the emergency pod, is that McCarthy will be a head coach. It's just a matter of time. And I would agree with Dean. I think that one, obviously there were stats to back up that they were not performing well under his leadership, but I was surprised too, especially someone that longly tenured in the organization.
Yeah, well, and what Dean brought up, and this is a fair point as well, is that he inherited Steve McCarthy,
right?
And actually, one of the things we talked about on the podcast that we did after this news broke, it was we said he's got to be doing something right. Like, even if I don't know anything about coaching, he's got to be doing something right, because he was promoted kind of early. In fact, he was supposed to be the AHL Monsters head coach in 22. Right. He was going to be the Monsters head coach. And then Stefan Lefebvre, but we've got into this. He didn't take the COVID shot. They ended up having to fire him right before the season. Now they need a defensive-oriented coach. Who are we going to get? Like, right at the last second? Oh, well, we got this guy, Steve McCarthy. So they promote him. Trent Vogelhuber. I'm stumbling over my words. Trent Vogelhuber takes over the Monsters head coaching role. He's done fantastic with it, by the way. But McCarthy comes to Columbus for Brad Larson. And then Brad Larson gets fired, and McCarthy stays. And he stays under Mike Babcock. Mike Babcock, veteran coach, obviously he's won the Stanley Cup. He's won everything that you can win. Keeps him around. And, Babcock didn't stay around. He was only around for 78 days before his thing blew up. But he kept McCarthy around. He was going to be on the coaching staff. So he stays. And then Pascal Vincent takes over for Babcock. Again, it was right before the season. Keeps McCarthy, likes McCarthy, says nothing but great things about McCarthy. Then he gets fired. And then Dean Evison comes in, and they keep Steve McCarthy. That was for all of last year. Then they almost make the playoffs last year. And then McCarthy's contract's up, just like a number of them, and they re-up with him. So they keep him here. And then Evison actually brought in Scott Ford as his assistant. That was the one decision that he got to bring in somebody from external means. And Ford stays and McCarthy goes. And so it was a really weird, odd decision, because McCarthy was running the D pair. He was like working primarily with the defensemen. And I think he was running D pairs in games for the most part. And he had a say in the penalty kill, but it was mainly, Evison always says it was a democratic process, basically, for all the coaching decisions, right? So, like, whatever decisions they make, goalie, PK, power play, whatever line combinations, he likes to say it was like all the coaches basically had input, and then he would make calls at the end of it. So you can't really put full blame if that's what you're looking to do. The penalty kill got off and they were rough this year. Oh, it's Scott Ford's fault. Well, in Evanson's opinion, no, it's not just his fault. It's everybody had a hand in that.
Yeah. And that's a little bit of coach speak too, saying that everyone had a little bit of hand of it. But for the most part, it is. Everyone has a responsibility to fix that too.
So it was from that aspect, it was kind of an odd decision to part with Steve McCarthy, but it happened. He's gone, and I do think Dean is right. I think he'll for sure latch on somewhere else as an assistant coach for sure. And he's pretty young, so Dean is probably right. He would know a head coach when he sees one, a future head coach. And Steve McCarthy's probably going to be one in this league at some point. I don't know when, but it will probably happen. So that was interesting comments from Dean. And you know what? I think Dean's going to be another head coach somewhere else as well. I don't think he's done, and he's only in his early 60s. And not to go too much more on Dean, but and we mentioned this, when the news broke, it's just a fantastic job in his first season there. Literally, you can there are very few, if any, other coaches in NHL history that had to deal with the kind of thing that he dealt with.
1,000%.
You know what I mean? With Johnny and his brother and their passing, just shocking news and everything, and then then having to go into a season, and then you're competitive and you almost make the playoffs. It's unheard of. It was a fantastic job by Dean and the whole staff. But now we got to see what's going forward. And what's interesting now to me, and I've said this all along ever since they made this decision. Don Waddell, the president GM of the Blue Jackets, came out and basically said that Rick Bowness, the current head coach, he doesn't have an interim tag right now. He's the head coach. He's not interim head coach. But there's no guarantee he's going to be here beyond this season. And with that being the case, now he might be, he might, if they get to the end of the season, they think things went well. Rick's like, oh, I'm feeling great health. He's 70 years old, going to be 71 coming up here in a few days. If he decides, hey, I can stick around, then maybe he will be here next year and beyond. And that would be great for the Blue Jackets because what they need is continuity right now. But if he's not, now you have to go out and find another head coach. And the next guy will be like the 6th head coach that the core group of this team has had since John Tortorella left in 21. It's too much. Like, with
that, I think we talked a lot about how the coaching decisions are going to affect Werenski's ability to stay. But I think that more corresponds with general performance and how they perform, no matter the head coach. They can switch head coaches 5 times. If they happen to play really well, Werenski would probably stay. He likes Columbus and wants to stay there to win. The thing that's more important with continuity, which I completely agree with, is the young players. And they have young players that they just haven't been able to take the next step this year and develop. And I think that's what worries me, is when you have guys like Fantilli and KJ that you'd want to see take a next step. And they're just, it's not that they're not playing well, it's they're not
scoring goals.
Not scoring goals. I mean,
It's
there's a difference between skating well and looking like you're skating really fast and actually getting the puck in the net, which is a stat that we'll also bring up. It is lacking.
Yep.
So I just think continuity and the one thing I did like that Bowness did is he had that short little meeting with the 4 players that had never made the playoffs before. And he was like, look, we're going to have to kind of giddy up. Like we have to play like we're actually playing for playoff hockey. And this is what it's like. And you guys don't know that yet.
Yeah.
That's a good
after practice the other day. Sorry to interrupt. That was the other day, just for background here. And that was Cole Sillinger.
Yeah.
Kent Johnson, Adam Fantilli, and Kirill Marchenko. Basically, the 4 biggest members of your young core who are healthy right now. I would put Denton Matejchuk in there as well. Mm-hmm. He's a young guy who's really key to this team going forward, but he's been hurt, and I think he was out for a little bit there. So he just pulled those 4 guys aside and basically wanted to reiterate it is tough to get into the playoffs in this league. It always has been, and it's gotten even tougher with expansion, right?
Right.
So, and you know what's interesting is like Fantilli last night, this was against Dallas, did not score again. That's his 17th game without a goal. This has got to be driving him nuts because I know this guy, and like he looks at himself as a key goal scoring type forward as a center, and I guarantee that part's driving him nuts. To his credit, he is playing outstanding hockey without scoring goals. Like he really, it's unbelievable.
Face-offs. You pointed it out last night in your piece.
Yep. And well, that's the thing is like, everyone's like, well, wow, Fantilli's out there killing penalties. And so brought that up to Rick Bowness after the game. And he's like, well, the reason he was penalty killing is because he was winning all the face-offs. Like you got to have somebody to win face-offs at the start opposing power play so you can clear the puck. And I did find that interesting. I was like, wow, he's really putting him out there. The only guy what was really interesting when you really break it down, I didn't have space to really get into this last night, too far into the weeds. He faced 5 opposing players, Dallas Stars players, 4 of which were about his age, right around there or younger, and he absolutely dominated all 4 of those guys. The 5th one was former Blue Jacket Matt Duchene, and he went 1 for 5 against Duchene.
That's pretty funny.
Like I keep saying one of these times I'm going to do like just this in-depth deep dive on face-offs in the NHL because it is so crazy. Like these kids go in college and junior and everything else, and it's basically just like timing and are you bigger than the other guy and like how trying to win face-offs, this and that. There's so much that goes into it in the NHL. It's crazy. You have all these assistant coaches. You have statisticians that are studying film, and basically whatever you tend to do, like your own tendencies on faceoffs, the other team knows exactly what those are going into every game, and you know what the other guy's tendencies are as well. If you're a center in the NHL and you are not studying every single other center who could potentially take a faceoff against you in the upcoming game, you're good luck.
Yeah.
Right. Like, because that's how far into the weeds this is at the NHL level. And it only gets even more intense, like in playoffs. Playoffs is all about matchups and face-off matchups and all that stuff. It's the same in the regular season, a little less intense in the regular season, but it's still there. And you see all these young centers, Fantilli, Sillinger, when he came in, like all these guys, you talk to them, that's the first area that they look at and they're like, God, that's so different than these other levels. Like, I used to dominate face-off. I dominated, and I thought I would be good here, and now it's just like I can't win one. You know? So it takes some time. But Fantilli for the season, I just looked last night, before last night's game, he was at 50%. If you can go 50% or higher in the NHL, you're pretty good at face-offs. And like he's really coming on. That's the kind of stuff that they need, because he is their number one center going forward.
And then the confidence of Bowness to put him in those scenarios, I think that will help. I think, it's no secret penalty kill has been miserable for this team. That's just kind of the reality of it. I mean, pretty good last night. I mean, as evidenced by the 0 goals. Mm-hmm. But the game I think about is the Flames game, where I think the Flames scored 3 power play goals.
3 for 3. Yeah. That was Bowness's first game.
Yeah. So Bowness's first game, they score 3, and this is a good segue into how has Bowness been? 3 for 3 on power play goals. Just a few situations. They scored, I think, Jackets scored first. That was the game Charlie Coyle played phenomenally.
Yep.
And it was the penalties that killed them and made it a close game. And 5-3, but it was an empty netter at the end. So really 4-3. Right. It was 3-3 in the third period. If they can take steps to right the ship in penalty kill, like putting Fantilli in face off, I am for it. Try new things and try to incorporate those young guys, get them the confidence. Like we said, I like Kent Johnson higher up in the lines recently. I think that's if we're talking about differences between what I've seen on the roster from Bowness to Evason, that's a huge one. KJ just getting a little more time, and maybe he doesn't fit on the line he's been playing with, but it's stuff like that where just you want confidence in these young guys. You're not, otherwise you're wasting time. You're wasting time trying to get better.
Well, it's interesting with Johnson, and because right now under Bowness he's played with Boone Jenner and Sean Monahan is the center of that line. And it's like you and I went back and forth on text a little bit about lines and things like that. That's one of the most fun things to do about writing about or covering hockey or just being a hockey fan, is just like, who would be good with who? And
this specifically this team where the lines have just been all over the place. But anyway,
so it's interesting with Johnson, right? Because I think speed-wise and skating-wise, he matches up really well with Boone and Monahan. I mean, they're not the fastest guys out there on the ice. I think they would be the first ones to tell you that. But sometimes it's good. Like if you're with 2 other guys who are about the same speed, then you're always supporting the puck. You're kind of around each other. There's not one that's way down the ice because they're way faster than everybody else. There's not one way back because they're slower than everybody. You're like there. And if you look at their numbers, like they're just their numbers together, generally speaking, they're pretty good as far as Corsi. Like they have the puck a little bit more and they get more zone time because Boone and Monahan are really good at winning battles and playing along the walls and stuff like that. And Johnson started to pick it up a little bit too. One area that they're struggling though is really like scoring chance creation. They're not really creating scoring chances for each other. They did have a goal. They had the only goal against Ottawa. Right. That was a nice little forecheck and off the wall. I think it was Jenner to Monahan. He pops it in there.
Dare I say nasty?
Yeah, it was really, really nice. It was a great goal. Unfortunately, it's their only goal of the game for the entire team, going back to their offensive woes. But so, I think that they need to stick to keep it together. And I think that's what I think Bowness is doing is like, let's keep this stuff together for a little bit. One thing that
stability.
One thing that changed when you mentioned Marchment coming back last night against Dallas, it was him and also Lundestrom. Lundestrom came back, and he's like the center of the fourth line. Lundestrom's not going to give you a lot of offense. It's not going to happen. But he is a really solid, like fourth line type center who's going to flip the ice, play a lot of like really good defense. He'll set some teammates up for scoring chances and all that. But what really happens with Marchment coming back is that it lengthens the lineup out. So he goes in where Cole Sillinger was at the top left wing. But now Cole can go back down and play with Charlie Coyle and Matthew Olivier, which we saw earlier this season was a line that really worked well.
Like very well.
Yeah, they had
I was actually a little upset when they kind of broke up the band.
Yep. So like now you have to have at least 3 lines that can score.
Yeah.
And I think that like the Johnson, Monahan, Jenner line, I think eventually they're going to score more goals. We'll see. I would keep them together for a little while just because I want to see Marchment, Fantilli, and Marchenko, and then the one we just mentioned, Sillinger, Coyle, and Olivier. I want to see those guys stay together.
Yes,
you really don't have many other options than to keep Johnson with Jenner and Monahan.
Yeah, it's hard to keep track of the injuries of this team. I mean, even obviously last year, you alluded to this in a prior pod. It's like, buckle up, young buck, because the injuries were way worse last year.
And the year before that.
Yeah. So, and I think during that December stretch where they were losing those third period games, we were like, well, at least the third line's playing well. Right. And that's kind of it because, Marchment goes down and then it's like, what are they doing? They put,
they don't really have any options.
There were some gross lines. There were some gross second lines at the end of the month. And I'm blanking on them now. Ken Johnson minutes uptick. I mentioned that I mentioned this in my notes watching the Canucks game. I was like, he's been playing more. 20 minutes, almost 21 minutes against Calgary. And then 17 and 18 in the next 2 games. So it's good to see that. And then the goal I mentioned where Boone and Kent Johnson played well, it was the 4th goal of the Canucks game.
Okay.
They got a 2-on-1. And I mentioned this to you.
Nice.
Boone mentioned to stay on his skates and skated beautifully. This isn't a knack on Boone. He skated beautifully and got a great feed to Ken Johnson.
Yeah.
Again, give Ken Johnson open space. He has a really good shot.
Put the puck in the net or send it over to somebody who can. Right.
So I think stability for this. This is maybe the theme of the pod. Stability. If they can stay healthy offensively, we can have another whole nother conversation about the defensive pairings. If they can keep the lines on offense stable, I think they'll get better in both penalty kill and shot creation in general. I think that's not crazy to say. Well,
I think, and you'd done some research on this, Dan, where it showed pre-Evison, post-Evison as far as high danger chances for and high danger like it looked like they were under 50% on high danger chances for percentage under Evison. The 5 games, what was it 5 games? And now those were tough games, obviously, and it did lead to a firing. But then those 5 games.
Shout out Natural Stat Trick, by the way.
Yes.
But the abbreviations, man, sometimes they're tough to get through.
Because it does get confusing because when you look at CF percentage, that's Corsi 4. Right. And that's just it's basically just shot attempts percentage. It's just a shot attempt is just either one that's blocked, it misses, or it hits the net. It's whatever it is. If there's a puck that comes off a stick directed toward a net, that's a shot attempt. And then a shot on goal is one that actually goes on goal. But they denote it as a CF, like Corsi, because that's all Corsi really is. But then you get later into their stats, and they have like SCF. Like, well, is that like S Corsi 4? No, it's like scoring chances for. So they track score and then they track total scoring chances in their opinion. And that must be noted. Natural Stat Trick and all these other sites that do just a great job with trying to give us some advanced metrics and stats. They're scraping data from the NHL's official stat services, that which you and I look at on the media site for the NHL. they're basically just scraping those like the play-by-play. So, and on the play-by-play, it'll say this shot was from 50 feet away, and they'll be like, well, then that was outside or whatever. And that's how they're tracking scoring chances and things like that. It was very interesting in last night's game against Dallas because Rick Bowness came out and basically he did say, he said in the second period, the Blue Jackets had 9 great scoring chances. And I'm thinking like, where were those at? But and then you look at the natural stat trick breakdown, they had like 1 or 2 for the Blue Jackets. And it was like 2-1 for the Blue Jackets at even strength over the Stars. And he's saying like 8 or 9. Well, that's a big difference, so who's doing stats for the Blue Jackets? I know they have their own people, and who's doing, you know what I mean?
Yeah. The one thing I will say to Bowness's credit, first off, it's hilarious just watching a head coach be really happy about a 1-0 game.
Oh,
yes, I love this.
Yeah. He loves. I think there was only 15 of those in Blue Jackets history where they won it 1-0. Actually,
there were I think the shot attempts was 2-2. 5 minutes in the first period. I was like,
oh yeah,
here we go.
It was like you could have easily. I think Mike Arace did fall asleep actually.
Yeah, shout out Arace. But the one thing that they were maybe correct about in the stat department is their Corsi was 57%. Corsi 4 was 57% in the second period. It was not like that in the first or the third. It was 30 and 35. Yeah, 30 and 41. So yeah, but I agree. There were not I did not see 9. I maybe saw 3, 3 decent shots on goal. So just circling back to the my quick research, the areas where they have improved I basically for the listeners, I took 5 games from the first 5 games of Bowness's tenure and the last 5 games of Evason's tenure. I compare just quickly. Let's see what's going on. They are taking more high danger shots, is what we've gathered. Their percentage of shots, I think, is 55% high danger HDGF percentage, and versus 31. Oh, wait, that's actually making the shots. So
GF is goals for percentage, so that's actually making the shots.
So they have
HDCF is high danger. Scoring chances for. So they just call them chances. So high danger chances for percentage.
Right. So their goal percentage is actually plummeted in that area. Yeah. It's gone down 20%. Right. However, their actual percentages of those shots have gone up. So they're taking more of those shots
from better areas to score from. They're just not converting them.
Right. So it went up from 49 to 54%, which is good. Right. I think that's a step in the right direction.
It is.
We have seen, I'm sure last night's game totally tanked the analytics. And 5 games. I'd like to see 10 games. I think when we get 10 games out, we can kind of maybe look a little bit. It's a huge chunk of the season, so we can see what the stats are telling us. But yeah, I think, and this is, by the way, is totally reflected by the eye test.
It is. Totally.
Which I completely co-sign. Anyone that looks at any of these stats, don't just look at the stat, look at the games and see if they're actually doing it.
Up, right?
Yeah, you can look with the naked eye. They are trying to get more shots in the crease. They're trying to get more shots in open lanes. They're and this is what they were not doing 5 games with Evason that we were aggravated by. They're not taking easy shots.
Right. Well, they're settling. They did a lot of settling.
Yes.
And they still kind of do. They're taking too many. They settle for plays from the perimeter and shots from the perimeter that are a lot easier to stop. It is hard to get to the middle in the NHL. That's the whole deal. Everybody in the NHL wants to get to the middle of the ice, and defensively, everyone wants to stop teams from getting to the middle of the ice. So they're willing to. Many teams are willing to do whatever it takes to keep you out of those areas.
Right.
So that makes it hard, and that makes it hurts. You're gonna get hit. You're gonna get whacked. But they have to start getting people in there. And then the other part of it is, you got to start scoring some goals from there too.
Yeah.
I think the bigger issue for this team, or as I should say, as big of an issue, is going to be players figuring out how, don't just throw the puck away. If you're in the offensive zone and there's people coming at you, they've got to figure out some outlets to keep the puck on their side. give it to a teammate, and make them chase that teammate. Because so often we'll see the Blue Jackets get stuck in their zone, and they're just chasing pucks around, chasing. That's going to wear you out.
100%.
The goal is to do that to other teams, to be able to figure out how to like hang on to pucks, battle for them, but also move the puck very fast to different players on your own team to make the other team skate around and get real tired. And then you get into once the other team is tired, those areas you're talking about, the high danger areas, much more accessible when the other team is tired. But if you're just in there and you're throwing one shot at the net from like the perimeter and it's out the other way, that helps the opposing team. And so like the Jackets, they really need some work in that area, I think.
Yeah. I think the last thing I want to touch on before we kind of look at the next few games, Zach Werenski is, and we could make a whole separate podcast called the Zach Werenski Show.
Yes.
And just talk about how good of a hockey player he is, and it would not get boring. He has 19 goals now?
19 goals. He leads the NHL's all defensemen in goals, including Cale Makar.
Yeah. I mean, he probably is going to, I mean, I think 23 is his high. He's going to destroy that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, barring injury or there's always slumps that come on in this sport as well. And sometimes you control them, sometimes you can't. Barring those two things, he's going to blow past his career high in goals. Like, he's on pace. Let's just put it that way. He's on pace. I think he's on pace for like 34 or 35 goals this season as a defenseman, which is just insane.
Yeah.
If the season ended right now, I mean, last year I think I voted. I have to go back over my ballot. I don't think I put him in number 1 at the Norris, but I had him up there pretty high if I didn't vote him for the Norris. This year for sure. Like if the season ended up right now, he's your Norris Trophy
100%
guy right now. Like he is the leader in the clubhouse for me right now. And I know he's not leading in points, but he's only behind Makar by like 2 points right now in total points. He's leading in goals. His plus minus is a shade over 0 right now, but it is in the positive. And he's second in ice time among all players. The guy plays in all positions, all situations. He's having another phenomenal season. And the way I put it was in my takeaways today was basically, if you thought last season was a fluke, it's time to reevaluate yourself and what you think about last season, because this is not a fluke. This is who he is. And he has really blossomed into just an elite NHL defenseman.
Yeah. I mean, he's one of few guys that can go on a team and be the entire catalyst of the team on offense, and he's a defenseman. I have no question. I mean, look, we know. I think everyone listening also can realize that, he is insanely valuable, and it just can't be overstated. Yeah. Okay, so going forward, first off, Blue Jackets are 5-4-1 now in their last 10.
Yeah.
And then this weekend
4-1 under Rick Bowness.
Yes, 4-1. 4-1 under Rick Bowness. I almost said 4-1, but I forgot they won the Penguins game.
Right.
Yes. So game this weekend against the Lightning, who I think are the hottest team in the NHL right now. They're 9-0-1 in their last 10. Yeah. They did lose recently, I think 3 games ago, but they're on a 2-game win streak again. They are second in the Atlantic behind Detroit. And the Blue Jackets are still second to last in the Metro. Rangers, who waved the white flag last week. I don't know if that was some crazy stuff.
Well, it's like with the Rangers, it's interesting because every time things go south, they're like, let's just write a letter to the fans. We're going to write a letter to the fans. Like they did this the last time. Hey, hang with us. We're doing this or whatever. It's like, great. But if I'm a fan, I'm like, enough of the letters. I want you to win some games.
As someone that has consumed New York media for the past 4 years at college, and before that, someone that follows New York sports pretty closely, that is the worst possible thing you could do, is write a letter to your fans and say, we don't know what we're doing. We're going to try.
Yeah. And we're probably going to trade Artemi Panarin.
Yeah. Which also, like, just talking to Rangers fans I know, I have never seen more uppercase text from guys I went to college with that are diehard. Rangers fan. Jacob, you know who you are. I hope he sees this. And then just going forward, so I don't know. We'll probably record next week on Tuesday or Thursday. So let's assume Thursday. They play the Kings at home Monday. I forget where the Kings are right now. They did play the Kings right before that December break. They're, I think, towards the bottom of the Pacific.
Yeah.
They are 4-2-4 in their last 10. So struggling a little bit. And then I think the game on Wednesday is against the Flyers at home. So
it is, and I think that's the first game against the Flyers. The Kings are at 53 points. They are right on the playoff cut line with like 3 or 4 other teams. It's getting real close out in the West as well. So they'll be ultra motivated when they come in here as well. And I think the Blue Jackets, they beat them out in LA, didn't they?
Yes. Yeah, that was they ended they were on vacation on a good note, I believe.
Yes. Yeah.
That's how I remember. So.
Yeah. So like you'll have, and then I believe it's the first game of the season against the Flyers, so that'll be an interesting game as well.
Any final thoughts for Hedge?
No, I'd like to see them play a little better offensively, hang the puck in the offensive zone a little more, and make other teams defend. Yeah. But it's hard to argue with 4-1-0 as well. Good to see both goalies actually playing well when they're healthy. Elvis Merzlikins had recovered enough to be the backup goalie last night. He seemed to be doing okay. So looks like they have their tandem still going forward. It was good to see Jet get the shutout. Every time a new coach comes in, especially when you're an undersized goalie, quote unquote, you're probably going to have to like prove yourself a little more. And I think he did that and then some last night. So until then,
I got one final thought. Actually, my final thought was the same. Elvis drinking water during the middle of a game is so Elvis and so great. It's great, but honestly,
I've been drinking water through this whole podcast.
I haven't.
I'm out. Actually,
take a sip.
I'm out.
Yeah, good. Okay,
I trust my co-host.
The one thing I took away from that is he's feeling good. He's confident. Like he's got that swagger back. He was kind of in the shadow realm a little bit at the end of Evason's tenure, and it's good to see him kind of break out and he said, new coach. That was his quote after the Flames game, or
guaranteed a win in Pittsburgh and then delivered.
Yes. So good to see when there's no drama in that goalie room, when they're just playing steady hockey. I think this whole team gets better as well. So it's good to see that.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this version of the Cannon Fodder podcast. And we'll see you next week.
Peace out, guys.
Peace out.